and welcome to House Connect, your insights into parliamentary activities. The 30th Africa Regional Assembly of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie, the APF, has gone into the annals of history as one of the most highly attended assemblies in the Africa region. 150 delegations from 20 countries across Africa took part in the deliberations in Yaoundé under the theme Political Dialogue and the Functioning of State Institutions, as well as the usefulness of parliamentary diplomacy in French-speaking Africa. That will be the sole focus on House Connect today. Don't go away, we'll be right back. The President of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie, 40-year-old Canadian-born Francis Drouin, was received in audience by the President of the Senate, Marcel Nyonji, before the start of the deliberations of the 30th Africa Regional Assembly of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie. In the course of the debates on parliamentary diplomacy and political dialogue, he was granted audience by the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Right Honourable KAWEB. With both officials, the APF president discussed the strong ties that exist between the association and Cameroon.
Setting foot in Yaoundé, 3 days to the start of the 30th Africa Regional Assembly of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie, the APF president, Francis Drouin, is welcomed by the Cameroon branch president, Senior Deputy Speaker Honorable Hilarion Etong at the Yaoundé-Simalène International Airport. The pulse of the preparation is taken, and to review cooperation ties between Cameroon and the French-speaking representative and consultative organ, an exchange is made with the Senate President Marcel Nyonji. The role of the Francophonie to enable French-speaking parliaments fend off their challenges is discussed, as well as the engagement of the youth in decision-making processes.
I want to thank the Cameroonese section for inviting us and the warm welcome that they have given us. Cameroon is an important player amongst the Assemblée Parlementaire de la Francophonie. It's important for me to be here. It's symbolic for me as well. My father was a mayor of a town, and they had an exchange with the mayor of Esseka. We're dating back many, many ages ago. But to me, it's symbolic that this is my last trip as president of l'Assemblée Parlementaire de la Francophonie. And I know that Cameroon will seize the opportunity to become a larger player in terms of l'APF.
Barely hours to the start of debates on the concept of political dialogue and the respect of state institutions, the APF president came calling at the House speakers. With the Right Honourable KAWEB, he testifies of the perfect entente between Cameroon and the organization committed to support parliaments address challenges such as dwindling economies and political instability.
First and foremost, I wanted to thank the President of the National Assembly for hosting the Regional of Africa. 150 parliamentarians are present here today. I think it's one of the largest Regional of Africa that's been hosted. I've been involved for 8 years, but I don't remember if there was a longer one. So it just proves to the point that Cameroon is an important player in the Francophone space. I think of Senator Ngayap, the first Vice President of the National Assembly, are always present, and there's many more MPs, parliamentarians that are present, whether they're senators or part of the National Assembly. They're always present and contribute to the important debate that we need to have.
At the end of the conclave, where Africa stands on parliamentary diplomacy and its usefulness in the common interest of the people was adopted, the dozen Senate presidents, House speakers, and delegation heads were granted audience by the House Speaker. The Right Honourable KAWEB expressed his excitement to see that the attendance graced the 30th Africa Regional Assembly exchange to chart the future of the continent.
Cela nous a démontré This is a demonstration of the hospitality of the Cameroonian people expressed through the House Speaker. He showed us how much he valued our warmth, and we have received the mandate to tell the world that Cameroon is a land of solidarity, peace and acceptance of all.
Africa's common stance on conflict resolution and peace preservation, as well as the development of parliamentary assemblies, will be presented by the delegates in the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie General Assembly in July this year at Montreal, Canada.
As announced at the start of the program, our focus today on House Connect will be the 30th Africa Regional Assembly of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie, which took place in Yaoundé. The opening ceremony was chaired by the House Speaker, the Right Honorable KAWEB, who talked about the importance of political dialogue in the resolution of conflicts in the Africa region. In the report that follows, you will be having the views of the 20 delegations from 20 countries in Africa on parliamentary diplomacy and political dialogue. Take a listen. The 30th Africa Regional Assembly beat the attendance record with 150 delegates physically present in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. Taking place in a context where Cameroon's parliament is bicameral, members of the Senate and the National Assembly of the Cameroon branch of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie are joined by the delegates from 20 African countries, as well as inter-parliamentary organizations in the likes of the Pan-African Parliament to witness the opening ceremony. In the presence of cabinet ministers led by the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Joseph John Gute, and members of the judiciary, the lawmakers are welcomed by the City Council and the Cameroon branch president of the APF, Senior Deputy Speaker, Honorable Ilariong. After hailing President Paul Biya for his contribution to the successful organization of the events and outlining the benefits of the association to the country in terms of training and its influence on democratic principles, the Right Honorable KAWEB underscored the necessity of political dialogue, an element essential in all harmonious communication which regulates the lives of communities.
It's something very important, very crucial for the reinforcement of bilateral relationship with every country. Our government works a lot on what is called the political dialogue, and what we are doing today is what we want to do everywhere. And I think whatever it is, and francophone or anglophone, we should maintain these political dialogues in view to maintain and to reinforce the bilateral relationship and brotherlyhood that exists already with all African countries and with Mauritius also.
The political dialogue is the base of everything, mainly in politics, and this is what we mainly observe in Cameroon with our head of state, His Excellency Paul Biya, who has taken the political dialogue as the essence of his political strategy. In each situation, the president usually advises to people to talk together, to share and listen. What people expect for parliamentarians is to be one of the major actors in peace, one of the major actors in good practice of governance, one of the major actors in diplomacy.
The implementation of the resolutions of the major national dialogue in Cameroon is a tacit indication of the country's adherence to political dialogue.
We are coming at a time when our country is still in the process of implementing the resolution of the major national dialogue. And when they talked about political dialogue, I begin to see political dialogue in the context of ongoing process, political dialogue in the context of consolidating international identity, consolidating the major topics that are now in the global scene, like the climate change, the reformation of the financial architecture, and all other issues that have to do with keeping these countries together.
Dialogue in itself is very important because it helps people to live with one another in peace. It helps people to express their grievances. And through dialogue, we can find lasting solutions. Through dialogue, we can achieve developmental projects and the country can be in peace to forge ahead with one another. I'm very happy even that Cameroon is hosting this assembly at this time because through the assembly discussions and resolutions that will be taken, we can also find lasting solution in the crisis that is rocking and affecting the Northwest region. We cannot minimize it, but we think that through this dialogue, we can also find lasting solution back in the Northwest region, in the far north, in the Southwest, because peace is very important. Peace is paramount.
For the APF president, Francis Drouin, Africa is a shining example of peace consolidation and conflict prevention, worth emulating by other continents.
In the Francophone space, there are some issues, and I say democracy is not perfect. I often say in Canada, we're still a young democracy despite over 100 years. At l'APF, we had a reflection in terms of saying, do we stop dialogue with certain countries that are facing these issues, or do we continue dialogue, and how do we continue that dialogue? So we created through new procedures rather than suspending certain sections that are facing, obviously it can't be violent. If there's a coup d'etat, it can't be violent. There's certain criteria that we're respecting, but in Montreal, we will adopt officially, the plenary will adopt officially those new procedures.
We are talking about political dialogue internationally, and we think about it in terms of Cameroon too. I think it's going to be very, very useful to us. When you talk about political dialogue, you talk about ruling the country and what are the steps we need to take. If it's going international, and we can also do it at the level of Cameroon, to dialogue and order to solve our daily problems, to see how we handle our issues, I think that will be very great for us. We think, therefore, that it's timely for African countries, it's timely for Cameroon to continue with political dialogue. Just to have heard people cry left and right, say we need to talk, we need to talk. That's the political dialogue we're talking about.
From the declarations of the Delegate General of the APF, Bruno Fuchs, to the Mauritius Island House Speaker, Honorable Surujdev Fouquier, it is clear that the specificities of democratic practices across French-speaking African countries must be looked into.
When there is problem, everywhere in the countries or between two countries, it is like the executive, the states, the policy problems. And when people cannot understand one another, you should have ways to promote dialogue, to find the ways to come to take them together, so they can make a dialogue and where there will be peace. You see, for example, democracy cannot be the same thing in all the countries. We have our histories, we have our cultural realities, we have our political systems which are not the same. We cannot make democracy or election like a rule. We have to understand, to go there and understand how things are going.
The policy of the Pan-African Parliament is to bring all Africans together, one Africa, one voice, so that we'll be able to have a say at the international level. We'll be able to hold our own grounds, whether we are Francophonie, whether we are Commonwealth, whether we are supposed to, as Pan-African parliamentarians, project and promote whatever organization is coming up with good policies for the betterment of mankind, especially the African. So this policy of dialogue, this policy of pushing for political reforms, economic reforms, and whatsoever for the African people is a wonderful thing. We are thankful to Cameroon, we are thankful to Francophonie for what they've been doing, and we think that whatever thing is happening here and the revolutions that have taken here, we'll be able to propagate them in the Pan-African Parliament level and make sure that the whole of mankind benefits from that.
Dissident tendencies and political fragmentation are amongst the major causes of political instability that threaten nations across the world, and Africa is no exception.
In most of our countries, we have a lot of conflicts that are going on, and the job of Parliament is equally to maintain peace, and the only way of getting genuine peace is through dialogue, because we have realized that conflicts which we have struggled to solve through war have not given birth to anything fruitful. And so we think that dialogue is the way out. And most of our countries who are in conflict, we think that through this parliamentary movement, we'll be able to solve some of these problems. And we have advocated that we should give priority to dialogue, such that when people dialogue, we'll get to the roots of the issues, and at that particular moment, we'll have a lasting solution to many of the problems we have.
For countries that have experienced the brunt of violence and discordant views from civil society organizations, dialogue is the best path to achieve inclusive solutions to institutional weaknesses.
It means that when the dialogue is broken between government, it's possible to continue to discuss with the people who are the representative of the population, and is the heart of the message of the APF today. I have the conviction that APF can bring something to African government, parliament and populations, but I have also the conviction that the opposite is also true. And it's why we need to have a dialogue, a permanent dialogue.
When in a country there is difficulties, crisis, violence, it's important that the main actors, the stakeholders of the situation meet to find solution to these issues. And they meet into a dialogue forum who enable them to discuss, to exchange, to find a solution.
Keen on fostering the respect of human rights and freedoms, solidarity and sustainable developments, it is vital to invest in parliamentary diplomacy.
It's good to be part of APM1 because we have many countries together, and because we act together. We act on in many domains. When we talk about gender equality, you see that in Africa, we are the first country in Africa with many women in parliament. That is a benefit. Even girls' education and many other things, effects of climate change on women.
That's very, very important because we need them to conduct our country, our continent, where in a society where you and me, we can live in peace, where women are respected.
In a context where the legislative and the executive branches share responsibility for foreign policy, parliamentary diplomacy remains a helpful tool.
We were very happy to come here to this meeting dealing with dialogue and parliamentary diplomacy. And as you know, our country is confronted to a number of problems, especially it is a victim of aggression. And we need the DRC in peace. Since President Kabila came to power, everything has been done to make sure that the DRC really serve as the motor of African renaissance.
Parliaments undoubtedly represent complex and diversified issues relating to the role they play in foreign affairs.
This session was very interesting because it was our first one in Africa since we adopted our strategic project for the next years until 2030. And this new strategic project is based on parliamentarian diplomacy. So Assemblée parlementaire de la Francophonie tries to improve its projects on parliamentarian diplomacy to help the executives to be more efficient, to try to prevent and solve the political crisis all over the world, and particularly in Africa.
Besides the activity of the government, It's important that parliamentarians join their voice, their capacity, their abilities to solve international issues from state to another state or in the international scene at large.
At the close of the two-day deliberations, Senate President Marcel Nyanji-Fenji applauded the resolutions reached at and emphasized that political dialogue is part of the basic pillars that lead to functional democracy, which need to be continually nurtured and maintained in each society.
Parliamentarians are actually supposed to be the mouthpiece of the people. And once parliamentarians meet, what is the essence of parliament? The essence of parliament is for us, as a spokesperson of the population, to be able to advance policies, to be able to share knowledge, to be able to make sure that we have a synergy, diplomatic synergy at all levels, so that in the end, as we have met, as we have shared ideas, as we have been able to look at directly each other in the face, we'll be able to at least avert wars, we'll be able to avert poverty, we'll be able to avert the illegal migration, we'll be able to avert the ills that come without us being together as diplomats, as people who are supposed to talk one language.
For an optimal Africa region influence in the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie, amongst the recommendations made by the African delegates was the request of increased consideration in position holding. Cameroon's APF branch president, Senior Deputy Speaker, Honorable Ilarong Etong, was proposed as Africa's candidate for the post of President of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie. These collective endorsements will be presented in Montreal, Canada, during the APF General Assembly, billed for July this year. As they rise to quit the plenary after 2 days of debates, the APF delegates are convinced that the African voice which echoes their volition to use Parliament to address key international issues will be heard. The next African Regional Assembly of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie will be hosted by the Republic of Benin in 2025. Away from the 30th Africa Regional Assembly of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie, members of the Senate and of the National Assembly have been quite busy in their constituencies. Some have been engaged in the empowerment of women, while others have simply supplied basic commodities to their constituents.
A stitching time for the women of the Yaoundé 5 municipality, empowered to roll back unemployment and to engage in income-generating activities. Their benefactor is Honorable Mad Minana, who is always on the watch to see that her constituents rise above the poverty level. From training in horticulture and ICT basics to mushroom cultivation, they are now drilled on the techniques of soap making from valued expertise.
It's very important for all women to have their own activity. That is why we teach them how to make washing soap.
Joining the trainees in the blend of lye, water and palm kernel oil, the knowledge gained is heartwarming.
I'm very happy today to unite the women of Yaoundé 5 to teach them how to make soap.
And a defined drill for the women.
I will make the soap with my family and I will teach my children how to make the soap.
I am very happy after this training because this training helped us how to do soap.
This training will help me to my family and to sell.
With the mixture poured into the wooden mold, it is left to set for 24 hours to ensure proper hardening. While it will be ready for use in 3 days, the women thank the stars for the knowledge gained for free.
It is on that note that we wrap up this edition of House Connect, which focused on the 30th African Regional Assembly of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie, which grouped 150 delegates from 20 countries across Africa. For 2 days, they talked about political dialogue and the functioning of state institutions, as well as the usefulness of parliamentary diplomacy in French-speaking Africa. Till the fourth night with what would have happened in Parliament, it is goodbye from the entire production team of House Connect.